Okay, in this badge we have to create links between pages and we have to also be able to add images. So I'm going to give you a brief overview on how to do those two things. Of course, in the book it will tell you, but sometimes following the book can get just a little bit confusing as to what exactly it is you're trying to learn. So let's just say we want to make a link. For instance, let's just say I want to go to ESPN's website. So I might have something about like read about my favorite sports or something like that. And I want to turn this into a link so that when somebody wants to read about my favorite sports, it goes to ESPN. So in order to do something like that, the tag is called A, which stands for anchor. You don't really need to know that, but you're creating these things called anchor tags. And then I'm just going to go like that for a minute. And then, of course, I have to close the tag when I don't want to make it a link anymore. So everything between these two tags is going to become the link. Sometimes people forget to close their anchor tags, and so they forget to close their links, and then every single thing on the page becomes a link. So that's kind of funny. Also, you have to kind of think about where do you want to make the link. Sometimes people like to make the link not the whole phrase, but maybe just the first part. Um, this right here, this is the hypertext reference. This means where do I go when I click on the link. So I could do this in a number of ways. I mean, I could probably tell you what the name of ESPN's website is, right? It's probably ESPN.com. So if I know it, I could have just typed it in. If I wanted to, I could highlight it and copy it. Let's just say I'm in a particular page in ESPN. I don't know. I'm trying to find something that's not as interesting as usual. So now we have this whole thing, right? And so now if you want to do this link to this exact page, you would want to copy this whole thing. So sometimes it's easy to link to a particular site because you can just type in http www.espn. But if you want to go to a particular page, it's easier to copy and paste it. So I'm going to do that so you can see it's like a whole big thing. And even though the website I was on didn't show the HTTP, when I copied it and pasted it, it came with it. So that's kind of handy. So now this is a link to a page. Now, what we call this in web design is we call this an absolute link. What that means is it's a page that shouldn't change. If it does change, like if they take this story down and they don't have it on the website anymore, it will become a broken link. Um, but let's just say they move, like they want to put it in an old section of their website or they redo their website. Um, that's too bad for us. We can't really know what it is except for searching for it again and then updating our link on our page. If you're making pages on your own, of course, you don't have to worry about that. But what we typically do is we make a thing called a relative link. And a relative link means you don't need every single piece of detail for it. You just need to say, here's where it is close by. For the most part, this is easy because we can just give it the name of our file. So let's just say this page is called links.html, and I want to make it link to a page to my skeleton. Let's just say my skeleton because I know that exists. So I can just type that in. So I don't need everything else here. I just basically need the HTML page. See my page and close the tag, right? So now this is a link to, and let me show you this because this is the important part. Here's my files. Links is here and skeleton is here. They are within the same folder. In other words, when I open up my web folder, they are both here. In order for a relative link to work, they have to be in the same folder. And so, well, what if they're not in the same folder? So let's just say I have a folder here that I call old stuff, and I put my skeleton into old stuff. How do I make a link so that it works now? Let's just, of course, I never showed you this working, so maybe you won't believe me that it doesn't work anymore, but it won't, because when it goes to find skeleton, it looks in the folder and it says there's nothing called skeleton here. We're going to get an error. So instead what I have to do is I have to put the folder name now in my link here. So I called it old stuff, and then I have to put a slash and then say what the name of the file is. Now, really I recommend not putting spaces in links. If you look at, let me go back for a second, ESPN, notice how they put like minus signs or even an underscore, right? There's no spaces in theirs. So most people are very careful about putting spaces because the computer can interpret spaces kind of strangely sometimes. So it'd probably be better if I just called it old stuff or old minus stuff. Something like that is better. And so then as long as it matches, then it's going to work. I could go ahead and show you now. Open this with Chrome. So read about my favorite sports. Clicking on that should take us to that page about the AP poll reaction. I could hit back. It's going to go back to my page. See, my page is in desktop web links. And then I say see my page. That page was empty. There was nothing on it, so it was a very boring page. But you can see that it loaded skeleton.html. In fact, you can see that it looked for old stuff skeleton.html. So that's how you make links called relative links. Now there is one more thing that gets a little tricky, and there's going to be some notes on this. Let's see how I just want to move this back out of old stuff for a minute. There's one situation that does come up every once in a while that you need to know about. So let's just say, well, I don't know why I'm not able to do this. Oh, I know, the easiest way is to open up two windows and go like this. So this time, skeleton is in this folder, and links is inside a folder. And so how do I get from inside a folder to back to the main folder? And the way you do that is you use the command // So this means kind of what it really means is go up a level in the folders. So if you have something that's outside of your folder, you can go up it like that. And so that doesn't happen too often, but sometimes, depending on how you organize your stuff, you need to be able to do that. And they call this a relative link because it's saying, how do you go from where I currently am, which is in a folder called old stuff, to where the file is? Like, what's the relative directions? I always tell people that the absolute link is kind of like a map or an address, like it always is what it is. And the relative link is like directions. How do you get from where I currently am to where I want to go? So hopefully that helps. Create links. I said that this was going to be about links and images, so I should quickly do an image, right? So images are almost exactly the same, except for two things. One is you don't need to close an image tag. You don't need to say, /img. That doesn't exist. So once you make an image, it just goes there. And instead of an href equals, it's just image source. If you think about it, this is basically saying image, get rid of the vowels, source, get rid of the vowels. So that's the tag that you're creating, right? And you have to put in the image. So same thing happens here. You can either type in the name of an image somewhere on the internet, so the image URL here, or you could type in a file that you have on your computer. So maybe you've saved an image about oranges, and it was called oranges.gif or oranges.jpg. We'll talk a little bit more about these kinds of images in a different thing, but um, whatever the name of your file is, then it will find it. And of course, if it doesn't exist, you'll get a broken image. There is no such thing called oranges inside of here. And so this wouldn't actually work, but that's the example of how to do this. All right, I hope that helps create your tags for links and for images.